of the Trollord Games map, the Castle Keeper's Guide. Here with us today, it's Monday, which means we have Jack with us. Hello, Jack.
Hello, my dear.
Alright, I'm just going to get myself prepared. Jack and I trying to do the healthy thing, walking around the house. Caused us to be a little bit late getting everything going. So, before we get into this, I want to thank everyone on my Patreon and all of my Twitch subscribers. Your support, honestly, means the world to me. Every single dime goes back into the channel one way or the other, and if you are a Patreon or a Twitch subscriber recently, you would have noticed that today we launched a Discord channel, and it's a Discord only for Twitch and Patreon backers. So hopefully we'll get to hang out a lot together in there. I have it up like most days, so come join if you haven't already. Get in the Patreon, get in the Discord, and let's just chill together, okay? Hey, Princess Striker, I did see that you were one of those that joined us. Thank you. I'm gonna actually grab a list of questions that we've been working off, talking to Jack, as you do. If I can actually find them, I don't even know where I put them now. Maybe I actually put them on my desktop somewhere.
You remember you had them on your phone at one point.
I do have them on my phone. I do have them on my phone. Let's grab the phone. It would actually be, I think it'd be even handier doing it this way, because then I could just look this way and read off questions. Alright.
Thank you, Princess. Yeah, I decided to switch it up to one of my other Star Wars backgrounds. So, Bridge of a Star Destroyer. Figured it'd be nice.
Where are these questions? I download too much shit. Talk about being unprepared. Oh, there we go. There we go. Alright, so I think we did gaming food, we did gaming drink.
Yep.
We talked about RPG systems, our favorite RPG systems.
Yeah.
We talked about Game of Thrones characters, which one is our favorite.
Yep. Yep.
Did we talk about our favorite fantasy story?
No, we didn't. Interesting.
So that's what we're going to go with.
I agree, Wargaming Recon. Who doesn't download too much stuff? Exactly.
I'll tell you what, seriously, as a small segue here, I want to say about 2 months ago, I sat in bed with my morning cup of coffee, sorting out all of the pictures on my phone. Like, literally getting them in the right folders and everything. 2 months later, and it is chaos on my phone again. And it doesn't help that it all gets uploaded to Dropbox. It is anarchy over here in my virtual world. Anyway, favorite fantasy story. Now, it doesn't say specifically books or films. I think fantasy story. What are our favorite fantasy stories? And then what are our worthy mentions?
Yeah, it's kind of, I kind of, have that in the same vein as like, what's your favorite movie? It's kind of hard. I mean, fantasy stories, there's so many of them, and they're all great for different reasons. Going kind of, you asked the question of who's your, from previous, who was your favorite Game of Thrones character? The Game of Thrones books were pretty good. I know that the show, didn't end up kind of going to a place that a lot of the fans wanted, so it might have kind of tarnished its legacy, its reputation a little bit. One could go so far as to argue that the Star Wars is a fantasy story because it's a fantasy space opera. But I might have to be kind of cliche and boring and go with like something like Lord of the Rings. I mean, I know, but both the books and the films, I know they're both, have some things that are different from each other, because obviously the movies had to do what they had to do to make it a cinematic feel. But I think, oh, you know what? No, actually, no, hang on. I'm going to amend this almost right off the bat. And I know you've never read them, but I dig them. Actually, I'm going to go with 2 series. One of them is not pure fantasy, but it's fantastical, so it counts. The Dark Tower series by Stephen King, and then the other one would be the Dark Elf series by R.A. Salvatore. I don't know how you pronounce his last name.
I'm actually surprised that you didn't go for that one straight away.
Yeah, it's funny because it's been a long time since I've read any of those, and I actually pulled together a list of the entire series, because I know that there were some later books that came out that happened at different time like zones in the overall timeline, and so I was like, oh, I should reread these, and I own most of them. They're all on a shelf somewhere, so it's like I could totally reread those, but yeah, I would probably go with one of those two.
Right on. So Princess Strega, by the way, yeah, I'm sure anything is possible on the Discord channel, but we've been live one day. Let's wait until we're actually hopping like a few hundred people and we have a need for individual channels like that. Otherwise, I think it's just too much. It'll just get too diluted. But I will say that we're paying for the Discord channel. We're setting it up in a very professional way. So we have complete extensibility in the future, okay? Nothing is off the table, but let's get there first. So for me, for me, I think I'm going to throw into the mix of my favorite fantasy story, Conan.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to throw in specifically Conan the Barbarian, I think.
Nice.
Hey, Magnificent Pex is here.
Brian McWhorter, bringing up the fact that the author of the Dark Elf series is the guy who killed Chewie in the Star Wars novel Vector Prime, but that's okay because that story is no longer canon, so he's not dead. He's both alive and dead. He's Schrodinger's Chewie. He's not really, he was not really smooshed by a moon, so it's okay.
Is that how they killed him? They smooshed him with a moon?
Yeah, in the book Vector Prime, it was the first book of a new series about these alien these alien people from like another dimension or another part of the universe or something. It was whatever. But anyways, they had this device on the Yuzum Vong. They had this device on this planet that was pulling the moon out of orbit, and it was going to collide with the planet, and so they go to try to like save the people on it or whatever, and basically Chewie dies saving one of Han's kids, like tossing him on the ship, and then like that kind of stuff. So yeah, the old school the now Legends Star Wars books did kind of go all over the place, like really all over the place. Some of it not good. Princess, I was gonna say that his Dark Materials series, the trilogy of books, is a great one as well. Yeah, I know the first season is done, and they're actually been promoting the second season, which is going to be coming out on for HBO. We were waiting to watch it when we were gonna get HBO through Amazon, so we could watch Lovecraft Country and like his Dark Materials and that kind of thing. So but yeah, heard good things. It looks good.
Stardust, Princess Strega says.
Yeah,
that's a blast from the past.
Princess, that was one where I actually did the reverse. I watched the film first, and I tried reading the book. In my opinion, the book wasn't as good as the movie, to tell you the truth. I was getting kind of bored. I was like, the movie was way more fun and fast-paced. Hello, Alex Dixon.
Hey, Alex. Good to see you. Virtually. Don't like that. Getting rid of it. All right.
So what was it about the Conans that you're such a big fan of?
Okay, so I think for me, a lot of the films from back in the day were kind of influential to my writing of my own world, and for me, things like, God, what? Okay, so there was Dragon Slayer, but there was another film where it had a sword, nothing to do with Conan, that had 3 blades on it, and one would shoot off. It was very cruel, like, I forget what it was called now. Someone in the audience is gonna know.
Oh,
and
right.
that influenced me, but in kind of like the wrong way. Was it cruel?
No, Krull was like the chakra thing.
Right. I don't think they had the 3 blades in that one. It was something else like Beastmaster or something like that. But in a really corny ass way, it influenced me. but not in a good way. I mean, I had one sword, it had 5 blades, it could shoot fireballs. It was ridiculous. It was just ridiculous. It marked the beginning of my Monty Hall period, right?
Gotcha.
Conan throttled all of that back. Conan taught me that, like, less can be more. Less magic in the world. Dark. I don't want to even call it dark. Grittier, right? It had this great, gritty feel. The sword play was great. It was flashy. The Sword and the Sorcerer. There it is. It would be the Sword and the Sorcerer. Green Loontoon. Thank you for being subscribed for 3 months. Very much appreciated. But yeah, so for me, Conan the Barbarian really taught me to appreciate just a different type of thing out of fantasy, you know? And I loved it for that.
You know, funnily enough, that was actually kind of why I liked, when I was a kid, why I liked Lord of the Rings so much. Because when I first was introduced into like Dungeons and Dragons, I was like, dragons and fireballs and lightning bolts, and I used to play the old the floppy disk, the Blades of Silver or whatever the hell that game was, the old D&D adventures, and so I was like, my fantasy was kind of high fantasy. It was like doing the Monty Hall. That's where like my brain went. But then reading Lord of the Rings and how everything was like, it was kind of like a very simple time, and like all the lore and the elves and Gandalf were always talking about how cool shit used to be and how much magic there used to be in the world. But like it was like simpler times, and like that was like ages past. And I was always like, oh, so like a fantasy world where it used to be crazy fantasy, but now it's kind of not really anymore. And like magic is leaving the world, and like soon the elves are going to be gone and the wizards with them, and then it's just going to be a medieval world with no magic. And I was like, that's fascinating. I was like, that's kind of cool. And then from then I kind of did this whole, yeah, there's magic, but it's really rare, and a lot of times people don't understand it, and it could hurt them and hurt others. So I kind of dig it. I dig why, how Conan was in line with you like that. That's awesome.
What's Ryan Ross saying? Gold Box RPGs, SSI.
Oh yeah, that's the one. Yeah, the Pools of Radiance. Exactly. Those are the games. Yeah.
Although, okay, so true fact. I played all of those games. And do you remember, like with the Pool of Radiance, and there was another one after it, but like you'd take a step, and like each time you took a step, there was a chance of getting a random encounter. Mm-hmm. Curse of the Azure Bonds.
Okay.
That one took it to like a ridiculous degree, where literally you go step and the whole screen would suddenly like light up with like I always remember it's like a whole bunch of dark elves, and it would take you an hour to fight these things, and you'd finally win. It was tough as hell, and literally you go one more step and boom, another random encounter, and there's suddenly another 30 dark elves to fight. I got so mad. I had my first rage, computer game orientated rage break of something, and I was probably about 13, 14 years of age, and I kicked my bedroom door in half. I was so mad. I always remember that. I sidekicked the thing karate style. Yeah.
Nice. It was those games that I realized that the haste spell used to age the people that it was cast on. So pretty quickly in the game,
yeah.
I was running around with a bunch of geriatric adventurers, and we had to find a fountain of youth, because I was like, wait a minute, my barbarian's 94? Oh my god, he's gonna die. Because I kept casting haste on him.
And that was per book though too. I mean, that was legit. That's how haste worked.
Totally.
So Princess Strega, Eye of the Beholder was the first game I rage quit. Why did you rage quit in Eye of the Beholder? What was it about that? And Jack, have you ever had a rage quit? Like it's a serious, like, moment in a game?
Well, you know me and how I can be extremely upset but still stay calm. So the one time that I wanted to rage and destroy things, I was playing the original Diablo, and the original Diablo, it wasn't like the later iterations of the game where there was no save option in the later editions. They had a save and quit. and it always would save and quit, and then you'd start the game back in like whatever nearest town you had started in, and you were supposed to unlock waypoints, kind of like Path of Exile that we've been playing, because I think that's actually built off of the Diablo 3 engine. But it was, you would always save and quit, and you would start back in town. Well, Diablo 1 wasn't like that. Diablo 1 was you'd save it, and when you loaded it, you'd load literally wherever you last saved it. Well, I was fighting a mini boss in the game. I don't remember which one it was, and he kept killing me, and I kept having to reload. Well, in one of my times, I was so mad, and I knew he was coming in for a kill because I had barely any health or whatever, that I just hit escape and hit load, just expecting me to load it again. Well, I actually hit save, so when he killed me, the game loaded, and he killed me, and the game loaded, and he killed me. In the game, and it was literally, I had saved it as he was swinging his giant sword at me, and basically I don't even remember how far I was into the game, but I had spent hours and hours and hours, and I was livid. I was so upset. I ended up having to just quit out and go away for a while, and so it was the Jack version of a rage quit. But I mean, you know me, I don't the only time I've ever probably raged is what you saw a few years ago when I was playing that UFC fighting game, and that guy that was beating me. That was probably the most ragey I've ever been in a game.
So, Akodoken, sorry if I'm butchering your name here. So this entire project is a series of 12 maps for Trollord Games. It goes from a thorp to a hamlet to a village all the way through to a metropolis. Well, sprinkled in here, we have some military type of infrastructures, from a tower to a Motte and Bailey castle to a regular castle, and then a greater castle and a military camp. You get the general idea. Well, as we've been drawing these, and you can see we're doing it all on one canvas because it's going to look super sexy. We got to the tower, and honestly, this was like a collaborative thing. This is what we kind of do on the channel. And we were like, so a tower is going to look kind of boring from above. I mean, you can super sexy it up as much as you like. You can get some shrubs, some grass, some hills. It's a round structure from above. Okay, maybe you add a roof to it. It's still a round freaking structure. So Green Lantern here on the channel suggested doing a cutaway. Alex Vixen, also on the channel, suggested doing a block tower. So that is what we're working on right now. We're actually doing a cutaway of a block tower. I have never done a cutaway before. It's new waters. I'm kind of liking it. I'm enjoying the experience. I think it's a great way to draw a tower. We might be doing more cutaways on this channel in the future, without a doubt.
For a first time doing a cutaway, gotta say
it's not too bad. I've had some areas where I've struggled, but I think using Photoshop's symmetry tool in this would have saved some headache. But there's a lot of perspective angles and things too. Well, it doesn't look right, but I'm like, screw it. The more we do it, the better we'll get, right? So we're just going to keep forging away on this. Final print size, by the way, for this is going to be about that. And even if we do poster size, that's about the print. So these little imperfections that we see when I zoom in, you're just not going to see them. This is close enough. And I think it looks nice. Imagine this coloured. Everything's going to be coloured. This is going to pop off the freaking page. I've fallen in love with it.
Hey, GL, I'm doing great. How about yourself this evening?
All right. Oh, by the way, just so you know, too, if you're new to the channel, each Monday I invite my husband, Jack, to the table. He is a geek, a nerd, and a gamer, like all of us. And we're just doing a Q&A, and we're just going to bullshit. It might turn into the curmudgeon hour, and we bitch about people. But we're just going to talk about films that are coming out, nothing. Games that are coming out, like Cyberpunk. We're just going to bullshit, okay? We're just all going to hang out. Every Monday we're going to do this. Alright, new question. Jesus Christ. That has to be Princess.
Nope.
No, it was Wargame Recon. That's so loud. I need to turn on the volume on that one. Alright.
Hello, Orion.
Okay, so favourite sci-fi story. And there's an overlap between science fiction and fantasy, I think. But favourite... Jack, I already know the answer to this one. Favourite science fiction story?
I don't know if you do. you tell me your guess, and then I will see.
Is yours not The Empire Strikes Back?
No, I see, and that's one of those things. I in my head, and I know people are probably gonna fight me on this. In my head, I don't consider Star Wars to be fantasy or to be sci-fi. I consider it to be fantasy. In my opinion, it is a fantasy space opera. Star Trek is science fiction, in my opinion, because for me, science fiction is it's futuristic and all that jazz, and but it's based in science. That's part of the whole science fiction. So while Star Wars, there's nothing in Star Wars is based on science, like at all. None of it's based on realism. And there's magic and there's swords and there's fucking monsters and orcs. And I mean, it's, Star Wars is so fantasy. It's so fantasy. It's crazy. So sci-fi. So that's but that's just me personally. There's so many people that are like, no, Star Wars is science fiction. It takes place in space. There's spaceships. Fuck you. It's sci-fi. It's like, okay, that's cool. I'm not gonna fight you on it. I don't care. It's all good.
Oh, you're not going to? Okay, disappoint. But okay, cool. I respect.
So if I was gonna go sci-fi, I've probably got two. One of them only kind of because it's kind of theoretical, but there's the Otherland book series, which is pretty cool. A lot of the main characters have their consciousnesses uploaded into the internet, basically. And then they have to find a way to get out, and there's lots of things trying to kill them. But I gotta go with The Expanse these days.
Yeah, good choice. That's a great choice.
You and I have only watched the series recently, and I've never read the books, but it was one of those things where I just never watched it. I mean, we heard people talking about it, and we were always like, okay, we'll get to it whenever. Typically, if it's crazy popular like that, you and I are always like, all right, let's throttle it back and actually, let's actually see if this is worth it. But yeah, we watched it, and I was like, holy smokes, this is really good. So, The Expanse, Princess Trigger.
Yeah, Wargaming Recon. I've not read the books, but we've got a friend who has. He hasn't really sort of told us too much about the books, because spoiler alert. But it sounds like it's like really involved, very deep. And as an outsider, almost, I'm very curious about like how they're gonna get this into the visual format, so to speak.
Yeah. What about yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
Favorite science fiction? Ooh. I'm not huge on science fiction, like, at all. I've got to be honest with you.
Right.
But I think I actually have a little bit of a soft spot for Battlestar Galactica, the series, the remake.
Yeah. No, I hear you. No, that one was really good. No, I hear you. Oh, that's actually a great choice, actually. That's a great choice. All right, well then, here's a follow-up question, which I know isn't part of the thing. Who is probably, it doesn't have to be a definitive answer, but just for right now, who would you consider to be your favorite Battlestar character?
Oh, sweet Jesus, now you're asking me to remember character names. I don't do that.
Even if you don't remember the name of the character, you'd be like, who was the guy that was the thing? And maybe we could figure it out.
Actually, I'll answer broadly and then I'll get specific. Honestly, I felt that most of the characters, most of the characters kind of like were a fairly even keel. That there wasn't one character that just stole the show. Like in Game of Thrones, you look at Tyrion and you go, okay, yes, it's a Tyrion show, With Battlestar Galactica, it was pretty even keel for the most part, I kind of did like two characters. One was who was the mechanic guy, and he always had his overalls like down and shit.
Oh, Chief. Chief. What the hell? Everybody help me. What was the chief's name? I forgot his name. Who was the husband of the original? Not Athena, but the one who went bad. The Chief Tyrrell. Yeah, Tyrrell. Chief O'Brien.
Yeah, I kind of liked him because I also thought he had a pretty good story arc,
Yeah.
So I liked him. I was a bit partial to him. But you know the guy I really liked? The bloody asshole politician guy, or the he turns bloody almost religious occultist.
Oh, Balthazar.
Yeah, Balthazar.
Yeah, Balthazar.
If I had to pick one, it was him.
Oh, nice. Okay. Or Baltar. Yeah, Balthazar. I don't know.
Orion Noir, Muffet.
I added extra.
Muffet.
I added extra letters into
Baltar.
the name. Baltar. Sorry.
Yeah, I liked him.
Gaius Baltar.
He was a dick, but I liked him.
But he was awesome.
Yeah, he was.
And just like you mentioned, everybody in that show, there were so many the characters. Not only were they even keel, but including Tyrell, the chief, there was all of them had moments where they were amazing, and then other times you were like, "What are you doing?" Like even Adama had moments like that. Where you'd be like, "Adama's awesome," and then he would do something that you're like, "Adama, what are you doing?" Baltar started off going, "Oh my God, what a," and then later in later seasons, you'd be like, "He's pretty cool," and then he'd do something, and you'd be like, "What are you doing?" And then he'd do something again, and you'd be like, "He's pretty cool again." Yeah. Oh, Alex, weren't a fan of that one, of the reimagined Battlestar. Oh, that's a shame.
No, that's okay. Different strokes for different folks, right? The intimate relationship with the Cylon just gives him a plus. I'm just saying.
Nice. Balthazar in Charmed. There also was a Balthazar in, I think, Supernatural as well. I think it was one of the angels.
All right.
I keep feeling like I'm taking you away from the broch.
Mondays are not about me mapping. I'm just mapping the background. This is about us after the weekend. We've just got through on Monday, all chilling out together. I just happen to be drawing a block at the same time.
Gotcha.
And look, I mean, I've made great progress. I'm about to start working on the people. And then I think I'm actually going to start working on bricks in the background and things hanging off the wall. So I'm making good progress over here. And we're just bullshitting as we go. Okay.
And Pex, it's going to be Sam who's playing Walker, the new Walker. Dean is going to be playing the original... The original Vought mutant in The Boys next season. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. We're all hanging out together. Okay, another question. Change of subject. We've done our favorite role-playing games. Mm-hmm. Worst role-playing game. What's your worst role-playing game?
Okay, so I it's gonna be something convention related, and it's not necessarily the role-playing game in and of itself getting thrown under the bus, but it's probably the experience that we had. Didn't we have a question where we were talking about worst role-playing experience? So you know what? Let me change that back. We've already talked about our least favorite gaming experiences. Role-playing game that I liked the least. Wow. Have there been any that I've just been like, I do not like this game?
It's the same question for the audience too. Least favorite role-playing game. For any reason. I'm gonna open up here with some firing shots. GURPS.
Yeah. GURPS. Okay.
GURPS. Tried GURPS. Tried it once. Couldn't get my head wrapped around it. Backed out. I mean, there's a lot of that era though. I mean, I know GURPS is still going. Where, chivalry and sorcery, unusable, as a role-playing game, great resource. But GURPS bugged me for some reason, and I think it's because I went all in on some books, and I was like, well, this is garbage, and I just couldn't get the attraction of it at all.
Got ya.
Green Luton say Car Wars, and I played Car Wars more than I did GURPS. I built my own little role-playing system around it and shit. We actually ran some little mini campaigns inside that. So Car Wars I was genuinely okay with. Orion Noir is gonna fight me over this.
The one out of all the role-playing games that I've played, because I haven't played a ton, mind you. I over the years I've been pretty safe. I've stuck to the D&Ds. I've stuck to the Pathfinders. I've played the White Wolf series. I don't remember what that name of that system is called. World of Darkness, I think it's called, because I think that's what that superhero game was played. So I'm not gonna come out and say anything, but there have been some narrative-driven role-playing games that I've played that have just been fine. They weren't my favorite. So if I was going to have to pick one that I just wasn't the biggest fan of, I'd probably have to do that. But I don't know if it'd be like, oh, I'm throwing it under the bus, because I don't know if I've played any game that I was like that disappointed in. I had like a terrible experience. Like I have never played Traveler before. The one and only time I've played Traveler was at a con, and it was a terrible game with a terrible GM and a not very good group of people. And so it was like the gaming experience was crappy, but the system seemed fine. So it's like I can't judge Traveler based on the crappy group and crappy GM we had. So, yeah. I don't know if I've had one that I've been like, oh, it's so bad.
I've not heard of the one that Princess said. Like Continuum? I've not heard of that like at all.
Continuum? Oh, and I haven't heard of Millennium's End or hold on, just saw one. Where'd it go? What somebody said it had like a long name. What was it?
Orion Noir, though, while Jack's thinking of that, one of our best experiences at a convention was some guy's homebrew system, and it was because of the people that were sitting around the table. And it was freaking brilliant. And it was like you were playing in basically an 80s action hero. And you got to, and he had them all sort of made up, but like you had Rambo in there, you had bloody, Schwarzenegger in there, you had every trope imaginable around the table. And with like good people, and we had some good people, the laughs we had on that, it was crazy. One of the best games I've ever played in my life, and it was totally homebrew.
That game was amazing. Yes, I was playing the character that was basically like he was oh god, what's his name? The wrestler, Hulk Hogan. I was basically like, yeah, brother, we could do this. That game was great because we were all action art tropes. I think you were Rambo, weren't you?
I was Rambo. Yeah, I was Rambo. And it starts, of course, because your mentor is killed, so you're all reconvening around, his grave, and he's being buried. And so I turn up with cut off fucking sleeves and a black bandana around my head. You could just go so over the top. It was hilarious.
To show respect.
Oh god, that game was so good.
And then suddenly we were attacked by ninjas. Yeah.
That was brilliant. That was brilliant. You know, one game I was actually disappointed I couldn't get into more, Earth Dawn. Because I actually know we played it for a while. I could not get into Earth Dawn. And I know it became a little bit of a joke in our group that, like, Alyssa never reads the rules. But I do read rules. I do. Like, we played Earth Dawn. I then read Earth Dawn cover to cover, I have no problem reading rules if I feel like they're accessible. Earth Dawn, just, I think to this day, confused me. And I feel like there was a lot there that had merit, but I could not mentally engage with Earth Dawn.
Interesting.
Yeah, faster Earth Dawn.
Going back up a bit, Green Lantern, to answer your quick question, yes, I've played Shadowrun Returns on the PC. That one I was like, thank goodness it's a throwback to actual like Shadowrun. But the follow-up, Shadowrun Dragonfall, and then the one after that, Shadowrun Hong Kong, those blow Returns out of the water. So after you play Returns, if you love it, if you're enjoying it, great. Get into Dragonfall. You will be blown away by it. How because they improve upon it, and the story is amazing. And then Hong Kong is right up there with it. It's kind of a photo finish is which one's better, either Dragonfall or Hong Kong. But it was Returns that set the groundwork. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. Good games. Good games.
And Alex Dixon likes Earth Dawn. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It might have been even just a headspace that I was in at that part of my life. I was actually playing a caster type, and I could never get the rules down for casting. I literally couldn't. And that's partly what became a bit of a running joke in our group. I was struggling so much with that one.
Yeah, I don't remember it enough, and unfortunately, our group, the GM of the group at the time, was somebody who always seemed like they had a lot of great ideas, but then when they actually came to GMing, they kind of lost a lot of their luster, or they lost a lot of their enthusiasm, and they didn't quite, and they weren't able to quite pull it off, and so it was a little disappointing because it's like it sounded great, and the setup was great, and the system seemed intriguing. But then the system kind of got away from us, and we were losing track of things. And then the plot of the actual adventure started kind of going off the rails, and it was a little unfortunate.
Okay, worst RPG archetype. Archetype? Archetype. 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 Okay. Type A.
Archetype.
Archetype, yeah.
So
worst.
In my opinion, what's the worst archetype?
Yeah, I know that's a weird question.
See, and that's... I mean, I could just... I don't know what the hell would be the worst. I could play, like, one that I don't want to play. Like, I don't want to play, like, lawful, stupid characters.
Well, Orion Noir just came up with a good one. Horny bards.
That is kind of a, yeah, you know, that the fact that these days it seems to be the joke, like always making it how the bard is super horny and is trying to, like, you know, I played a charismatic character actually in the very 12 years ago when Alyssa and I first met. I wasn't a bard. It was back in 3.5, so I was playing a swashbuckler character. And at the time, tabaxis weren't around, so it was my own homebrew cat race. But I was playing a very charismatic, like like bards would have been jealous of my charisma, for God's sakes. And he wasn't horny character in the slightest. It's like, what do you mean if I'm going to play a super charismatic, suave character, I've got to be lusting after everybody, or everybody's got to like want to like get in my pants? It's like, why is that a thing? I like Orion Noir. I like that answer. Why the hell is horny bards now a thing? That does not sound appealing. It's like, why?
In a similar vein, I always think that people tend to play paladins wrong. You know, there's way too many dicks in the paladin world. They just come up across as assholes. They're basically the opposite of Homelander, but just as destructive. I don't think that the paladins need to be as destructive to a campaign or a group as they tend to get played.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what I was saying with like the lawful stupid, you know, exactly. A lot of people that play paladins, especially back in the day when it used to be the requirement was you have to be lawful good in order to play a paladin. That's not a thing anymore, obviously. But yeah, so many people would play lawful dick, lawful asshole, and it was like, no, that's not how you have to play as a lawful good character. Like, what are you doing? Like, if you think about it. Well, no, and this may be just my opinion, but if I'm not mistaken, Ned Stark, Sean Bean from the first season of Game of Thrones, I would think he would be a lawful good character. He wasn't an asshole at all. He was trying to follow the law, and he was trying to do the right thing the whole time. And he was trying to do everything on the up and up the best he could to make sure that he wasn't killed in the process. Sorry, bro. And then that people he cared about weren't harmed either, but he was also trying to get behind what was going on. And everything he was doing was like by the book, or he was doing his best to. So it's like, I mean, how can you not play a character like that? Come on now.
Yeah, I agree with Brian. To me, paladins should be way more Crusader. Think Crusader. Like Crusader, 100%. Yeah. Although in my group, I actually introduced non-lawful good paladins way ahead of the curve, like nice. Way back in England. I was like, no, like a paladin is a Crusader for their religion. Any religion can have bloody paladins. Any religion. You can be bloody a neutral evil paladin if you are that Crusader for whatever usual evil religion that is out there. So I was down with it.
You could be a chaotic evil null following Arithmal, the god of fucking destruction and death, or whatever the hell he was. And it was and I am chaotic evil. I will murder things just because I'm bored that day. Why not? And I am a paladin of my evil, crazy god. Yeah, totally, man. You're not somebody. I'm a lawful good gnoll. I want to destroy you and drink your blood because my god worships it. Wait, what? Wait.
And I know they had the whole concept of like anti-paladins and stuff, but there was this big huge gulf in between. One of my favorite characters was actually a chaotic good, and she was an NPC, but she was a chaotic good paladin called Hellcat, and it was like they will be good at any cost. So like some of the things she did was a little bit like not lawful. Didn't give a shit about that because she's a paladin to a chaotic force.
Yep.
Paladin of Satan. See,
Satan,
you can
yes,
you
exactly,
could,
right?
You could. Why not? You're religiously a zealot for your religion, right? That could be sort of Satan.
Yes, Judge Dredd I would consider to be a paladin. Yeah, he was a lawful neutral paladin because he was all about the law.
And he was also a bit of a dick.
He was a bit of a dick. Now, going back to an earlier question that Princess had before we move on, she actually had a question of what role-playing system, and this is for both of us, obviously.
Okay.
What role-playing system have we never played that we really want to play? Good question, Princess. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a solid question. I'm going to actually be a little topical in a way in our particular household right now. Because the last time I played it was back in the 80s. But Star Wars. I would actually pick Star Wars. The role-playing game.
Me too.
We'll get on it then.
Damn it, I want someone to GM for me.
No, I would like to experience Star Wars, I think. Yeah.
I could dig that. If it wasn't for if it wasn't if it wasn't for Star Wars, it would be for me. Someone mentioned it before as one I think it was in their category of their one they weren't a fan of, which made me kind of go, but Seventh Sea.
Oh yeah, Seventh Sea. I'd like to try and play. Yes, absolutely.
Akodo Ken. You said Seventh Sea Second Edition was one of those where you weren't a fan of the rules, but you did say that the First Edition mechanics were better. So maybe Seventh Sea First Edition. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of when I think of when people tell me how Seventh Sea was pretty good.
There was a game back in England, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, but it was basically adventure on the high seas. But it was way more, I want to say, realistic in this world, but in the 18th century Age of Sail. And it was pirates, it was buccaneers, and had a fumble table where the wig would fall over your eyes, that type of shit. And when my good friend was reading this system out, and I forget what it was called, it sounded hilarious. It sounded so much fun. I never got to play it, and to this day I don't even know what it was.
Couple of responses in here saying 13th Age for Green Lantern and Orion Noir. Hex is saying he wanted to play the 7th edition Warhammer RPG, not the tabletop minis of Warhammer. Oh, Princess Strega says that 13th Age is basically D&D 4th edition retro clone updated to be more streamlined. So probably not something that I personally would like. Personally, I couldn't get into 4th edition. I looked into it and I tried getting into it, pumped for it, and I just couldn't. It didn't mesh well with me. Ooh. Stargate Sg1 powered by Spycraft. Interesting. Just another, going back to our earlier question, another sci-fi story that was pretty good. Stargate was pretty good. I only watched the first 8,000 seasons, because I know it had like a 20,000 season run or something. It was really long. I probably got about halfway. It was pretty good though. It was pretty good. It was a nice continuation of the movie.
10 seasons, says Magnificent Pecs.
10, 20,000, you know. 6 of one, half a dozen of another.
So Brian says there was a D6 Star Wars book out, not called Star Wars because of licensing, called Star System.
Which is weird because the original Star Wars was a D6 system, so why wouldn't it just use that one? Out of curiosity, I wonder. Star System, every star a destination. Nice.
Alright. Worst RPG mechanic. Game mechanic. And I'm gonna, by the way, I'm gonna throw out one I don't think is the worst, but some people hate it. The explodey dice system. I love explodey dice because explodey dice love me. But I know some people hate explodey dice.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I'm kind of in your camp where I really dig explodey dice. I've never understood the explodey dice hate. Maybe because it's not. Neil used to run the teams. Oh, really?
Okay,
Nice.
I could see that. Ryan Noir, I'll have to hit Neil up actually to run something for us.
Nice. Wait a minute. So hold on. I don't know who Orion Noir. I don't know who you are, IRL, or maybe you're friends on Facebook. But I'm sitting here going like, wait a minute. Neil Marker's being brought up in this conversation. So you're apparently part of the like that crew of the people that know Neil at least. Interesting. Okay, you don't have to tell me your name, but I'm suddenly my.
Yeah, I'll tell you after the stream.
Wait a minute.
I know who it is.
So let's see. So a mechanic, I'm not. So anyway, so yeah, I too like the exploding dice system, but I'm wondering if people don't like it because of the random chaosness of it all.
And I think too, for some people, it's the fact that you're rolling and rolling and rolling. So I'm going to hit on one that has never sat well with me. The wrestling mechanic in D20 systems.
Oh yeah, grappling in D20 was such a pain in the ass.
The fact that I think it was even Pathfinder. Pathfinder, you know, really carried the torch for a while. Pathfinder, you needed a chart to figure out grappling. So that is one mechanic that I've railed against.
And thanks, Orion Noir. Doxed hard. Nice.
You're going to be doxed now, my friend.
You saying grappling immediately made me think of decking in Shadowrun.
Yeah, okay.
I freaking hate it. I want it to be so much simpler than it is. That the fact that there are so many house rules out there on making it simpler. It's like I hate that it's so complicated. It's just like grappling for D&D. The fact that you need a giant flowchart to grapple in 3rd edition 3.5 and Pathfinder, and then you need a giant flowchart in Shadowrun just to see, did I hack the thing? Did I do it? Did I do the thing? All I wanted to do was hack the thing. Please tell me that I hacked the thing. Well, let's see. Did you do this? Do you have this? Do you do these things? Now you got to go over here. Now, did you do this? Now, how's your deck configured? Is there anybody around? Now, what's over here? Is there any noise? Now, how about it? And then, and you get to the bottom of a page and you go, no, you didn't hack the thing. Try again next turn. So everybody, that was 3 seconds in game. And it's like, oh God, it took 30 minutes in real time. Good Lord.
Ryan Noir says actually trouble accepting the 5th edition long rest.
Now see, in my head, I personally, it's kind of weird when they have short rest and long rest. I see the long rest as that's you going to sleep for the evening. that's like, you know, you're doing watches, you're doing nights. I know people game the system and they're like, let's take a long rest in the middle of the day. It's like, no, you can't take a long rest in the middle of the day. You take a long rest at nighttime. You go beddy bye, you go sleepy. That's long rest. You go beddy bye, that's long rest. Short rest is, hey guys, I need a breather, can we take 5? Okay, cool, we took our short rest, let me recover some of my hit points, let me get some of my not so powerful abilities back with a short rest. Okay, thanks, let's continue on. You know, so, you know, in my head, that's how it is. If I was running a 5th edition game, which I haven't done yet, I would not allow anybody to take a long rest unless it was time to go to bed, kind of a thing, quote unquote. If you're like an hour into the adventure and it's like, let's take a long rest so we can get all of our spells back, I'd be like, no, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. You're not taking a long rest. Get out of here.
Hey, Miss J's here. Hi, Miss J.
Hello.
Oh, okay. So Miss J's grabbing in some computer game mechanics. You know what, Miss J? That's freaking awesome that you should even bring that in. Because I have the same freaking pet peeve, is where the invisible walls around bosses. In fact, I'm going to go one stage further. I actually don't like the concept of bosses in computer games, because I think it becomes this lazy mechanic to try and challenge the player. And it's like, I get it. I understand the origin of bosses, but I think bosses can be done right, and I think they can be done lazily. And there's a lot that do it lazily. And I'll give you an example. Deus Ex 2. The first time that released, those bosses were lazy. They were just big, huge bullet sponges with invisible walls so you can't leave the area. In a game where building a stealth character was a viable and encouraged route. And as a stealth character, you now couldn't fight the bosses in this invisible box that you'd just been put in. And I thought...
Yeah. Yeah, no, please, yeah.
Well, no, you're adding to the conversation. It's all good. It's just like, for me, that is maybe, if we are looping in computer games, that has to be the number one thing that will make me rage quit. I've encountered it multiple times. In fact, Assassin's Creed Origins had it. I completed Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I love Assassin's Creed, the series in general, particularly Origins. But I'll tell you what, they loved their invisible little room boss fights to a ridiculous degree. Like, you could even predict where it's going to happen, but you'd get like these worst case offenders where you're in the middle of the mother effing desert. There's nothing around you. Boss fight occurs, and suddenly you have this invisible wall containing you into one spot in the desert. And I hated that with passion. With passion. It's so lazy. Especially in an open world game. Like, okay, got the big bad boss that I'm fighting here. Why can't I sprawl through the city with this guy? Why can't I be on walls jumping down trying to get away from him and shit, like trying to come up behind him? Give me a little bit more of that, you know? But, okay, let me give a flip side though. You know, if we're going to talk about computer games, you know one mechanic that I actually really liked? Shadows of Mordor, was it the Nemesis system?
Oh, the Nemesis system was cool.
If we're going to talk computer games, the Nemesis system was Carcassonne.
Until it broke because it got OP, because the system didn't know that it couldn't stack certain abilities together to make a literally unbeatable character. Like that one guy. You ended up getting that guy that kept coming back, and every time he came back, he had a new ability, and so pretty much by the end, it was like, so he's immune to magic, he's immune to range attacks, he's immune to power attacks, he's immune to assassinations, he's immune to attacks from behind, he takes like 25% damage from attacks to the front, you can't do throws with him. Oh, okay, so I can only do 25% damage to him if I attack him front on, only, ever, and he's way more powerful than me in a straight up fight.
Yeah, I remember that guy. He kicked my ass every time and got more and more powerful every single time. But still, that Nemesis system, man, Nemesis system was dope. It was like on point.
I heard in the sequel they not only did they improve the nemesis system, but they also put in some things completely.
We'll be going for about an hour. We're going to go for at least another 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Hold on.
Are you going to do wine? Yes, I need wine because I have nothing.
So, excuse me, everyone.
That was a good one, Miss J. That was actually a real solid pet peeve right there. It can be done right, though. Bosses can be done right. Like, I always remember playing Borderlands and getting bosses in that and being okay with it. And it was even still a contained area, but it's almost like the game itself was kind of that way. So it's like, okay, no, I kind of expect it out of this game. But then you flip that and you go to Alpha Protocol, I think it was. Alpha Protocol was a very much like Deus Ex, and you could do the run and gun type of character, or you could do stealth. And so I love doing stealth, by the way. I love stealth in my games. So I went stealth. And then you get a boss fight in an enclosed area you cannot leave, who is all run and gun. And it's like, so basically my entire build is throwaway. Because I have nothing in my build that helps with this situation. So great. And I stopped playing right then and there because of it.
There's no respectability.
No respect, nothing like that. Right. Thief, love Thief. Thief was a great game. Occasionally I try to go back to it, but it's kind of aged a little bit in, like, you know, like Princess Strega was mentioning this earlier, like user interface. Sometimes the user interface just feels old and clunky, or just the way things are joining together. And so, you know, I'm actually just leaving Thief alone now as being one of those nostalgia games. But Thief, I couldn't get enough Thief back in the day. That was such a great stealth game. Thank you. Yeah, stay in the shadows, avoid the light. Wargame Recon, don't you besmirch my wine. Yeah, a quality remaster, actually, of Thief would go a long way, I think. For sure. For sure. I think this is one reason why I keep going back to the Assassin's Creed games. Because it gives me that fix, and I'm not sure there's anything else out there right now that's going to give it to me. I'm actually hoping that Cyberpunk gives me enough of that, because I want to play a stealthy type of character in Cyberpunk. Dishonored. I own Dishonored, and you know, weirdly, I couldn't get into it. And I don't think I gave it enough effort. But everyone keeps telling me I should be playing Dishonored.
I would recommend revisiting Dishonored, personally, because since you do like stealth games so much, maybe, I don't know if it was maybe the setting that you weren't the biggest fan of. I don't know what it was for you, but that one, it was kind of like a, let's take Thief to like a different level. Like, let's add magic, and let's add kind of like this pseudo futuristic twinge to a medieval.
Yeah, and I can't even tell you why I couldn't get into it. It was like, it's got all of the elements that I enjoy in a game, and even different ways of completing an objective. I mean, it's like, oh, tickle my giblets. I love that in a game, and yet for some reason I couldn't get into it. It was weird. I abandoned it pretty early on.
Indeed.
Yes, Thief did have magic, just not for your character.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I never played the Thieves. I mean, everybody, just so everybody knows, this is how I play stealth games. Well, they heard me. Let's charge in with a battle hammer, you know.
Yeah, so the funny thing is, like, you know, Jack and I will play something like, you know, Deus Ex, and I'll talk about how hard a boss fight was, because I'm trapped in this room with this bitch of an NPC, and I'm stealth, so she's kicking my face in like a sack of freaking starting handles. And Jack will be like, oh, I just like did like what was that fucking bomb thing that you could throw, Jack?
I beat her in 3 seconds. Yeah.
He's like, I just did the bomb twice and she died. I'm like, you shithouse. Yeah, he went loud.
Yeah, I remember us reconvening to talk about that boss fight, and you were telling me this whole thing, and I was like, oh, she was so easy. I feel so bad right now. But it was when again, the first iteration of that Deus Ex sequel. That's how the boss fights were. That's how they were. It's funny when you were talking about how you hated the fact in that game, that first boss you fight, the big American like military guy who's got like he's like a human tank with all the augs he has going on. That's one where you're stealthing in, suddenly you're cutscened. But that's another mechanic I hate. I hate it when a cutscene happens and you're teleported across the map. That's freaking annoying. A cutscene triggered, and suddenly you were locked in a giant garage with the guy, and it was now one of those invisible wall boss fights, and he always knew where you were and were shooting rockets at you, and you were like, I've built a stealth assassin character, and this guy's shooting rockets at me and knows exactly where I am. At least my character, I was like, I've got heavy armor, I'm gonna dive behind this thing and shoot him with my giant freaking machine gun that gives me like minus 80 to stealth, because I don't care about stealth. Yeah, it was... Yeah. Ooh, Wargame Recon asks, what about the Hitman games? Have you ever played those?
Oh, yeah, actually. Quite a bit, actually. I stopped playing, but I do that with games occasionally. Like, I'll just stop playing and go, ooh, squirrel, and move on to another one. But I really love playing the Hitman games quite a bit. Like, it was funny, because one of our friends started playing as well after I started playing. And like, but it was the era of like you could see what your friends' high scores were on certain levels, and he got like 20,000 on a level or whatever, and I was like 160,000, and he was like, God damn, girl, how often have you played it? It was like 30 times just this level, because I love it. I lapped that shit up. I was blown away by that game. Alternative ways of doing it. Oh yeah, very, very, very much interested in that. We got all of that from our worst mechanic.
Alex Vixen was commenting on how she's played the Cyberpunk 2020 tabletop game, and that she was playing a character with like a stealth AUG character, that it was basically broken as hell. She was basically like the Predator with thermal optic camo, like Ghost in the Shell.
Nice.
So
nice.
That's freaking cool. Hopefully they're able to translate that over to the computer game when it comes out next month.
I actually had that in Oblivion. Oblivion, I went the stealth route, and I had like 100 stealth, or really close to it, with the stealth wings and stealth god knows what. I was invisible. To everyone. Like, when you have to go into the gate, and then you got to go through the Daedra or whatever, and you got to climb up the tower to the top, and you got to do something at the top of the tower. I could go from the gate to the tower and out with no fight. Nice. And if I had to kill something, I would just kill it. No one could actually see me. No one could actually find me. I would just kill it. It was like an auto kill.
They're running around trying to find you, going, where is she at?
Yeah, and it was so OP, to Alex Vixen's point. It was like so OP that I remember going on the Bethesda forum saying, is this broken? Because I'm basically a goddess right now. Like, I've won the game. And I did. I won the game just using stealth. It was a little bit too good.
That would have been the way to go, though. I mean, when I played Oblivion, I never was able to beat Oblivion, because it was one of those things where I like my third Oblivion gate, I couldn't beat it. It was like way too tough. So tough that like I actually stopped doing Oblivion gates and started doing like the DLC quote unquote epic level content, like for like the way later. Like I did the Shivering Isles and stuff DLC, because I was like, the new epic level content is easier than the freaking Oblivion gates, for God's sakes, because I was not a stealth goddess like you were. So that's awesome. Speaking of which, that's actually a mod that I'm running for Skyrim. I'm replaying Skyrim, just so everybody knows, with a whole bunch of new mods and stuff. But in the lore of the Elder Scrolls, Skyrim got hit heavily during the Oblivion crisis. Like, supposedly crap tons of gates opened up in Skyrim. Well, when you play Skyrim, you'd never know, because there's no gates anywhere. Like, anywhere at all. And I know it's been a couple of 100 years, but if you look, there are ruins everywhere in Skyrim. It doesn't seem like people are breaking down like old ruins and stuff. And so I actually have a mod that's like, so I've introduced a bunch of Oblivion Gate ruins all throughout Skyrim. So like every major city, you can find like the ruins of an Oblivion Gate from during the Oblivion Crisis. And I was like, oh, that's freaking cool. I want to do that. I want to go into a city and be like, oh, that's where the Oblivion Gate showed up. And so assuming you could have gone and adventured around Skyrim, I mean, I know you go there for like a fraction of a second in Oblivion, like the real southern reaches when you take Martin there. But yeah, so cool.
Well, no, that's one of those things that I think, in general, I don't think Bethesda sort of joins the dots with its own work as well as I think they should.
No, yeah. Not only do they, yeah, yes, I agree. They don't join. Bethesda, we don't join the dots. That's Bethesda. Strega, they've been good. I mean, a lot of them are dated now. Like I would not say go back, and I would never say go back and play Daggerfall. I would never say go back and play Morrowind. I would never say go back and play Oblivion, because those are older games and we've moved on so much from them. But I would give Skyrim a chance. If you ever see like Skyrim Special Edition on sale, like anywhere, I would recommend it.
The Dread Star, thank you very much for the follow, my friend. It's very much appreciated. Alex Vixen, I've got to see that one day, girl. I gotta see it. You know I love those building games. I look forward to seeing the screenshots. Very, very, very much so. Alex Vixen was saying that she's built a block in Minecraft. A bit safe. Oh, your patron, thank you very much for your Dreadstar. It's really appreciated. In fact, honestly, man, I'm glad you're here. We have several subscribers in here. We have other patrons in here. But it's really that you're seeing a rebirth of my Patreon account. You're seeing a rebirth of my social media in general. All because of the great, magnificent Bex that's in the channel with us today. He is masterminding this. There are going to be so many gobs of rewards that I'm going to throw at you guys and girls, not only in Discord, but direct to your doorstep virtually. Actually, and physically too, when we, like, with the canvas maps and everything. So thank you. It's really, truly appreciated. You're in for a wild ride, because we're going to have some fun. And the Asher guy, on the flip side, if you're hankering for some Morrowind jank, there's a mobile port. Interesting. I can't imagine, unless it was on a tablet, I can't imagine playing something like Morrowind, like, on like, phone. So honestly, Morrowind really disappointed me. Morrowind is one game that I actually stopped playing because it was so depressing.
I was gonna say, in the mobile port, do you still fall through the stairs when you try to go up to a second level in the
Oh yeah, no, that was Daggerfall.
Oh, that was Daggerfall.
That was Daggerfall. Okay. Every time that you've got to go up some stairs, save it and keep saving it as you go up the stairs, because at any point you could fall through the world.
Oh Jesus, that's so stupid. Just trying to go up to a second level. Are you kidding me right now?
And V Dreadstar, seriously, thank you for your patronage. It's really, really, really appreciated. This is a great opportunity for me to actually talk to you directly. The fact that you got a canvas print, there's going to be a lot more of that. Okay? There's going to be a lot more of that, and some super sexy stuff just for patrons.
Oh, Dreadstar is actually talking about these Egyptian-themed scarab cities.
Yep.
Those, I got to admit, were awesome and so fantasy. I love those things.
They're head turners. They definitely, get everyone to go, what is that? Every time.
Ooh, Akoto Ken. Subscribe with Prime.
Oh, thank you for the subscription. That's extremely appreciated. That's awesome. See, Jack, it's a Jack factor. Everyone loves Jack. They're gonna be back in tomorrow. There's no you, and they're gonna cancel their subscription.
Yeah, sorry, folks. I'm just a Monday showpiece. She's only able to show me around once a week, sadly. Alex Fixin, yeah, Skyrim is definitely one of those addictive games. You have to be super careful, especially if you play it like with a weird way that I do, which not everybody does, but I do, where I don't fast travel. I only travel by foot, or I take the carts that are outside of all the major cities, and that's it. So it literally will take me forever to get to a destination sometimes. So I'm like, so what am I doing today? Oh, right, I'm running across the map in order to get to the quest that I needed to get to. And I'm literally like 20 steps out of the city, and I'm like, ooh, what's that? And there went my day of adventuring, because now I got distracted by what was over there.
That was the same for me, though. When I played Skyrim and we were doing the no fast travel rule, and so I was walking everywhere, there was actually so much to be found. That was one of the beautiful things about it.
So much to be found.
It was like, what's that cave? Oh, what's this? Oh, what's that tower? Oh, what's this? Yeah.
Nice. And Alex does that too. She and her boyfriend does that too. That's the best way to play it. I do have a mod that actually adds more wagons, though. I think it's called like Better City Travel or something. I'd have to look it up to what it is, because I was like, okay, so if I'm not fast traveling, I have to be able to, because the standard game carts don't take you everywhere. And sometimes you go to a city and there's no cart there, and you're like, wait a minute, I just got to Dawnstar and I now can't leave unless I'm on foot. Crap. So I did install a mod that added more of those. And I installed a mod that actually added boat fast travels. So all of the port cities, the cities that are along the coast, they actually now have a little jetty, and there's a boat guy there, and he's like, hey, do you want me to, I'll sail you somewhere if you want. He basically is the equivalent of like the wagon guy, but for all the coastal towns. It's pretty cool.
All right, next question. We'll maybe make this the last question. Yeah, this might be the last question of the stream, depending on how far it goes. This is like, I'm gonna roll with this one, even though it's staying with the negativity a little bit. Worst board game mechanic. Worst board game mechanic.
Oh Lord.
And I'm gonna go first on this one, okay?
Yeah, please.
The game Rage.
Okay. Blood Rage.
Blood Rage.
Yeah.
The whole mechanic was setting one player against another, okay. But the concept of having cards that could totally undo someone's entire game plan and effort with one card, and you're done. I feel like it's such a dick move. Blood Rage is the game that turned me against versus style games, because it was just so brutal in the way that it did it. Every card was basically a hammer to the face. It was like, I built up all of these cards so I can enact a plan so I could try to actually play this game, and any other player around the table could go, well, tough shit, here's my mallet to your nads. And it was just that over and over and over all the time. I understand why it was called Blood Rage, because I wanted to kill my friends over that game. And I hate that type of mechanic in games where you could just dick over someone else so thoroughly and so easily.
Yeah, Blood Rage was definitely the game that made me not want to play games where you play against people anymore. Blood Rage was the game that I was like, I now only want to play co-op games, because versus games suck real hard. I'm not a fan. I to this day, Blood Rage literally ruined versus games for me. Like, I don't want to play competitive games if I can avoid it. I don't want to do it. Like, ones where you're playing against each other but you're not able to screw with each other, like our friend who had Robo Rally was great, because you were, yes, it was a competitive game, but you were screwing yourself over so much like I don't even know if the game had like a versus element, because you ended up dying. You ended up killing yourself by throwing yourself into a vat of acid.
Yeah, you're more like you were versus yourself, 100%.
It was a versus self game. Yeah, exactly. It was like Blood Rage was like, it's so pretty. The board was so great, and the minis were beautiful. Oh my god, the mechanics! I just wanted to murder somebody. Oh man,
I've never had a game before now where, you know, I've been sat around the table with my real life, very dear friends, and we're looking at each other and we're all miserable. And we literally sat there, and I forget who instigated the conversation, but someone said, "I'm not enjoying this, are you?" And we're all like, "No, I'm not." Because it was just this constant, how can I be a dick to you? I'm not a fan of that type of mechanic in a game, like, at all.
Yeah, Strega, you have a good point. Settlers of Catan is a competitive game that I'm actually okay with, for the most part.
Yeah, Carcassonne for Wargaming Recon here.
In Carcassonne, I've never actually played Carcassonne, sadly.
Carcassonne is actually not a bad little game. These are games where, yeah, it's not the versus concept. It's like, how much can I be a dick to you as part of this versus concept? And right, it's like that. Like, we've got a very good friend, Jim Pinto. Jim Pinto from Trollord Games is a game designer. That's what he does. And he's always railed against these systems that make you miss a turn, you know? Because he's like, so the concept is we're all getting together to play this game, so missing a turn or any variant thereof, like, here's a card that fucks with your plans altogether, so all of your game to date is done. Like, you're basically taking the concept of a player playing the game and throwing that out the window. You're not playing the game right now. And he's right. He's right.
Exactly. If it takes 30 minutes, like, it's going through all the other players to get to you. So that person took 10 minutes, that person took 10 minutes, that person took 10 minutes. It's now your turn. You've been waiting 30 minutes. You now have all your... You've been waiting 30 minutes to do your plan. Here are my cards, whatever. That person goes, yeah, here's my thing that counters everything you just planned for the last 30 minutes. And you're like, I literally spent the last 30 minutes doing something that was completely irrelevant, because with one card, you negated everything that I just did.
You just negated my presence at the table.
Yes. I like, why am I here? I could have put a rock at my chair, and it would have had as much effect in this game as I have had. No, 100%. 100%. Oh, see, I've never played Talisman enough to know if there was like any, for lack of a better word, dicketry like that. I knew it was long. I knew it was a really long game. I know Talisman can get crazy, obnoxiously long. But it always seemed kind of like role-playing light. So it always seemed fun. Oh, and we're getting some people saying, like Pex and Strega are saying that, like, they love Talisman. So hey, cool.
Do we own Talisman?
We do.
I was going to say, I seem to remember the box. But yeah, we never played it.
On Hero Quest is pretty cool. Hero Quest is cool. And what's the one where you're all trying to get treasure in the dungeon? You each start like in a separate corner of the board, and you're just trying to make your way through.
Oh god!
So it's competitive, but not really, because
it's tile based, so you're turning over the tiles as you go.
Yeah, every time you move to a new room, you pull another tile to see what the room is.
Come on, someone in the chat knows what that is. Yeah, I've forgotten what that is called.
Oh, I actually remembered, but I want to see if anybody knows what we're talking about.
Delving deeper? No.
Not delving deeper. Nope. If Delving Deeper is a game that does that, and not Card Room, if Delving Deeper is a game that does that, I might have to look into
I have a game that sounds like that, Card Rogue. Not that one, but if that's similar, then that's cool. I think that Jack, it might have been just... Actually, Jack, you know what it was called.
I do.
Was it called Dungeon?
Dungeon Quest.
Dungeon Quest. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
Dungeon Quest, and they did have a updated. The Dungeon Quest was like an older game, but they ended up updating it, and not only that, it was kind of cool. They actually made the Dungeon Quest characters. They actually made them so they could port over to Descent into Darkness from Fantasy Flight, because I think it was Fantasy Flight that bought out Dungeon Quest, if I'm not mistaken. And so they ended up making it so like the Dungeon Quest characters, if you wanted to port them over to Descent into Darkness, you could.
Hey Wargaming, thank you very much. That's really appreciated. I'm having a lot of fun with this. Anyone that's been following me for a while will know that I like to add stupid details to my maps. I just get carried away with it. I can't stop myself. That's one of the hallmarks that I bring to the cartography world, is stupid detail. I mean, at the point where you're getting into this type of thing and I'm still drawing roof shingles or nails in the planks, that's what I do. So when we decided we were going to do a broch, I already knew I was going to go all out. We are going to draw 4 levels or 3.5 levels of full-on details. This is what we do. I appreciate your compliment.
Oh God, McWhirter's bringing in skee ball.
I could add a skee ball machine in here, I guess.
Teagle Nom.
That would be a time we remember for a long time, right? You know, one mechanic though. So we were talking about mechanics that kind of suck. You know what? There was a mechanic that I actually kind of like in the game. You know, Jack, and you were talking about the tile-based systems. You know, you're versus everyone else, but you're not really versus everyone else. I'm definitely down with that. Even though there is a level of randomness, you never felt like the other players were against you. It was just, this is the look of the pick. And a lot of the time, it was like up to you if you proceeded forward or not. So it was always on you.
Right. The other players were there simply as a gauge of how well you were doing. Because some of them would like, I uncovered some treasure, it's worth 500. And you'd be like, crap, I only have like 300 worth of treasure. I need to keep going. But whatever they were doing wasn't screwing with you. So you were screwing with yourself based on your dungeon tiles you were drawing, you know.
Sorry, type into Wargamer here because I didn't want to disrupt the chat. But Wargame, no, there isn't. But what would doing an exclamation social or exclamation Patreon do, in your opinion? Pex is with us right now. I'm paying attention. I'm curious, because we can always add it.
From an outsider's perspective, exclamation social and an exclamation Patreon, they could be both the same thing, but one of them would be like, follow Alyssa on all of these social media links.
Your social media handles and everything.
And here's a link to her Patreon.
I like that. Pex, are you still around? Mr. Uno?
He's doing the shameless plug.
Alright, shameless plugs are good. Don't mind it at all. Pex, put it down as an action item for me to actually add a social command. I like that one. You know one thing I didn't like though about Hero Quest? It's like it was this really smooth game until you got to the combat. And then it like introduced this whole different mechanic, which I was never a fan of. You remember that?
Funnily enough, that was something that
you picked the little chips, and it was a versus thing.
Funnily enough, that was something that I disliked about the Civilization redo, not the original Civilization from back in the day, but the Civilization that they were trying, that Fantasy Flight tried to do based off of like Civ 3, Civ 4, Civ 5, Civ 5. Civ 5 was the one they were trying to do their Civ off of. Everything was cool until it got to combat, and it was very similar, where suddenly it was like, let's put away everything else that was part of the game, and let's grab these cards that have nothing to do with anything. And it was such this weird, and then suddenly it was almost like a rock paper scissors.
It was very rock paper scissors. I remember
like,
that.
And it was like, what is happening right now? It was
I forgot about that.
That was why we played it one time and we were like, wow, combat is real bad in this game. This like makes it not fun at all. And not only that, it took like an hour to set up the game. That was another disadvantage. Rock, paper, sisters. Yeah, well, you know. I blame the White Claw. Rock, Becky. Yeah.
All right, we are going to do one more question on tonight's stream. And Jack, I appreciate you hanging out and just talking bullshit like this.
I love it. I look forward to our Mondays together.
What the hell? Where? No. I'm not reading that. Favorite non-game hobby. That is ridiculous. There is no non-gaming hobby.
There's non-gaming hobbies.
No, there isn't. That is ridiculous. You shut your sacrilegious mouth. All right, you know what, Jack? Favorite gaming moment. Like part one, because I'm sure you have many. Favorite gaming moment. Let's end the stream on a highlight here.
Well,
Wargame Riku says eating. You know what? I can actually get behind that.
He also says drinking and sleeping.
You know, these are all good ones. I can get behind all of these.
Oh, and before we get to the favorite gaming moment, let's do Princess Strega's question.
Okay.
And it doesn't need to be for next week, Strega. We got it now. Non-combat tabletop RPGs. Has anyone played them? And if you have, let's expand on that. What is your... Let's expand upon them. What were they and how was your experience with them? A non-combat role-playing experience. Game or experience, I would say.
The Asher guy is like, I'm a big fan of breathing. Yeah, right. If breathing is a hobby, yeah, fair enough. That's a good one. So, non-combat role-playing experiences, that was the question?
Well, she specifically asked if anyone's played any non-combat role-playing, tabletop role-playing games in general. But I want to expand upon it myself. People can feel free to answer, but I want to expand on it. It's like, what was your favorite non-combat role-playing experience in general? From any system, anywhere. Something where it wasn't combat related, but what is a great experience that you had in a role-playing game that was not combat related at all? Oh, and I love that people are answering her actual question in talking about non-combat RPGs. That's great. I know I kind of...
if I was going to do... I don't know if this answers the question or not. I think for me, one of my favorite gaming experience was a LARPing experience. And it was my first time... In fact, I've got several, so I'm just going to use the first one. It was my first time actually role-playing in a castle. A proper castle, because obviously I'm from England. And playing for like X amount of years at the table and taking that into a castle with real darkness, real candles. Candles, by the way, are shit for illumination. And it was the very first corridor. And we're all there with our little shields and rubber swords and shit. With these stone walls all around us. There are role-playing orcs inside a room with this big, huge medieval door. And they're whooping and they're hollering and they're making this big, huge din. And we were so scared. And, like, shit got real, right? And, like, one of, the orcs was in the corridor with us. And he's doing all of this bravado shit and everything. And we're all there, like, behind our little wall. And someone had, like, they'll be scared of light. And he had his candle. And my favourite moment was the orc. He leant forward and went... And he blew out the candle. And suddenly, we were in darkness. And we were shitting ourselves. And I remember it to this day like it was yesterday. That's mine.
I don't have an RPG that is non-combat, sadly, because all of the RPGs I've ever played have been combat-based. I don't think I've ever played one that was not combat based. But my favorite non-combat moment in an RPG that like was combat based is gonna sound weird to everybody, but I had a moment where in game we had ended it. We were, I don't remember where the players were, but wherever the players were, it didn't matter where they were. But in between sessions, this was our gaming group that met every weekend or what have you for our every other weekend for our in-person gaming experiences for D&D game. And in between sessions, I sent them all a dream sequence where they were interacting with a character that I based off of the Little Red Riding Hood story. The character's name was Red. She was a little girl. She appeared to be a little girl who was standing in a frozen clearing in a forest, and she interacted in a dialogue-based encounter with every character individually, because each of the players encountered her in their own setting, and she had different things that she wanted to say to each character, and the interactions went in a variety of different ways for everybody. And to this day, it has been probably one of my favorite interactions with all of my players. Because of each of the interactions that I had with each of them, and we had, I think, 5 or 6 players at the time. I think 5. I think we had 5 players at the time. And to this day, it has been my favorite. But I could probably find. I actually commissioned artwork of Red because of this encounter. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
We have a miniature of Red.
We do have a miniature of Red, and I don't know if I'll be able to find my actual commission file. So let me see if I can find the artist's.
In fact, Pex, if you're still out there, one thing that we can actually do is Patreon and Twitch giveaways. Is we actually have some metal miniatures of the characters that we've created in our role-playing game, because there were actually a line of miniatures that are out there today. I have a box of them that we could actually give away to Patreons and Twitch subscribers.
So there we go. In the chat, I posted Serena Verde art. This is the art that I commissioned for Red.
This is what Jack's brought up, by the way, right here.
Yeah, my favorite non-combat. I mean, she looks way more intimidating than
this is how Jack's brain works as a GM. Incidentally, this encapsulates Jack right here.
So each of the players had a encounter with Red, and it was a non-combat email chain. Every person got a message individually. Poor Katie Recon goes, she's terrifying. She was supposed to be unnerving, but that would have been, if you were one of my players and I sent this to you and you would have been like, I would have been like, you know what, that's a legitimate response. That is a legitimate response to if you see this before you. No, I hear you. She is the stuff of which nightmares are made of. I don't know whether to thank you or to go, oh, I'm sorry. But yes, that would be my favorite non-combat scenario. I don't know if I've played any role-playing games that were non-combat based.
Well, I don't think the whole role-play or the game itself has to be non-combat, but meaning if there were highlights that were non-combat orientated, like one of my strongest bonding experience with another player was through role-playing, and that was with Andrew. Where like my NPC and his character ended up having a relationship that was born through roleplay, and it was great roleplay too. I would consider that to be a highlight. It didn't have a drop of combat in it.
Yeah,
It's a story that I would read back to this day. It was great.
Yeah.
All right, so Wargame Recon, to answer your question, the in-currency money right now is used for things like playing some of the games, so it's not entirely useless. But PEX will be spending a little bit of love on the channel currency, making sure that we can actually do very real things with it. So he's been working every single day for the last week and a half, I think, made great progress. It's one of those items for him to start looking at. So coming soon, trademark. It's going to be happening, okay? And I will say, if you are subscribed, you actually get more channel currency for your actions because of it. So the minute we actually get the games or the whatever that's associated with it, or like the little emotes, you will get more bang for your buck, so to speak. And you've probably got as much money as me right now. Just FYI, I don't have much. So we're now about an hour and 35 into the stream. Mondays are a little bit quirky. Mondays are Jack and I just sitting down. We're talking to you. We're just talking about all things role-playing wise. We're going to continue doing this every single Monday. Jack, thanks for hanging out, because it always creates something very different.
Well, you are most welcome, my dear. I love it.
In the meantime, I've been drawing in the background on the block details. This is about print size, give you a vibe for what this thing is going to look like on poster or in a book. I think it's going to look great. We'll zoom in a little bit. By the way, all Twitch subscribers and all Patreon backers will get a copy of these maps in high resolution, okay? Not only will you get to see the work in progress delivered to your door, but you will actually get a copy of this before it ever goes into print for Trollord Games. So, if you're following along and you are backing me, you will get to receive not only this entire piece, but each individual one as we complete them, okay? I know that several of you are chomping at the bit for this. And on that note, tomorrow night we'll be back same time for about another hour and a half. I think we're going to finish the block tomorrow night, okay, folks? I think that is just an inevitability. I think we've got to figure out what's going to go on in the background. I need to think about if I'm going to do it during colouring or not. But we're close now. We have to do a little bit more on the layer above, a little bit on the top layer, get some stone and some timber on those top layers. We're done. So tomorrow night, we're done with the block. We're moving on. I don't know if we're moving on to the Martin Bailey, the fortified military camp, or maybe one of these towns. I'm thinking the towns. But this has been a journey, this right here. This is something I've really enjoyed. And it's because of you guys and girls. You told me to do this, and we're doing it. So back tomorrow night, we're going to continue working on this. I want to thank all of the Patreon supporters. I want to thank all of the Twitch subscribers. Right now, I can only do this verbally, but believe me, it is heartfelt. Here shortly, we are going to have little outro credits that put it in writing just how much I love you guys and girls, okay? I mean that. And PEX has been working very, very hard to ensure that whether you are subscribed via Twitch or you're backing me via Patreon, that you get to have the same benefits as each other, okay? No one's getting cut out. And that started with the Discord channel today. And believe me, PEX has got a list this long of other things that you guys and girls are going to get every single month. And he's here to keep me honest, okay? It's going to be a wild ride. But if you've enjoyed what I do here, if you've enjoyed the stream, even a little bit, hit me up with a follow. Consider hitting me up with a subscription. I want to thank you. I love you all. We're going to be back tomorrow, mate. We're going to do this all over again. And Alex Vixen, we will continue this conversation about you in Ravenloft tomorrow night. Oh, Phantom Jen. Sorry, Phantom Jen. Maybe I could get Jack to come back on a Tuesday night, if you'll be here.
Well, yeah, I should.
Alright. Love you all. Thank you for your support. I really mean that. I'll be back tomorrow night. Maybe with Jack, if we know the Phantom Gem's going to be here. Until then, everyone have a great evening. Gonna finish the broch, man. Alright. I'll save it. Don't you worry about that. Night, everyone.